Um,
Yeah, okay.
Hi all, good evening and good morning. This is Yadav here. I'll be your OTM trainer as we progress onto this particular sessions. Um, just to give a small brief, two-liner about myself, I have almost around 18 years of experience, of which a dozen years are in transportation products, specifically designing them and also implementing them. That includes keywheel products, SAP TM and OTM. And OTM has been almost 5 years I've been dealing with OTM product as such. So that indirectly makes me or directly makes me, you can, um, if you want me to compare the products between multiple TM solutions, that will also be possible as we are discussing in this particular training. And because I've spent a lot of time on the transportation product line, so you can ask me in general about the TM solution also. So that is something which I would be more than happy to share as we progress onto the product. Um, and in terms of this training goes, this would be the content, whatever has been shared with you will be a techno-functional training. But end of the day, you can opt whether you want to do only functional or you want to do only technical. Now, in terms of the content, whatever you could see, I hope you have received that. So we will be requiring the topics, whatever is required in terms of functional and technical. But when I say functional and technical, what it means? See, some of you would be experienced, some of you are just venturing yourself into the product line is concerned. Typically, when you implement a product, what you want to do in terms of customizing or configuring the system. So there are two words which we get into: configuring and customizing. Configuring the system is using the existing application, and whatever is required, you make the setups so that the application can be used by the end user. Customizing is basically you make or tweak around the product to ensure it suits the requirements which are given by the customer but not available in the system. So technical basically means in that particular area. That means whatever is there in the product is not sufficient enough for the customer. So you mend the product in such a fashion that it suits their requirement. Customizing is configuring is whatever is available. So functional training focuses on what is available in the system, how do you work with that existing system and make the system workable for the customer. Technical competency is basically tweaking around with the product so that it can be used by the customer. So the question always be, do I need to have a techno-functional training or a functional training to start with? In the current market, if you go back around 4 years or 3 years back is concerned, people were okay to have a separate person for functional, separate person for customizing. But because of the new trends which are happening, most of the people expect you to configure and customize the product as per their need. So I would say that to start with, techno-functional is something which is a common trend that is happening in the job market of the product. So when we look out for resources, because of the number of resources out there available, techno-functional is something which is the most commonly expected requirement from the job market is concerned. It's not just about job market, it's about the expectation of your role when you join a organization is concerned. Okay, so that's the setting of stage about what's the content you would like to see when you are looking out for a new job or when you are going and start implementing OTM. Either of the cases, this is the requirement what you should be looking for. Again, some people will definitely be not interested in customizing. You can definitely go with functional. There is no hard and fast rule that you have to be techno-functional. But technically, it narrows down the number of opportunities what you are looking at, or the number of positions or the roles you can pick it up when you are picking up the OTM is concerned. Now, that's the first area. The second area, in terms of the OTM product as such, if you see, if somebody says what knowledge I need to have, that means you are looking at the prerequisites of yourself before you launch into OTA. Uh, Technically speaking, I always recommend to have an SQL and an XML knowledge. If you have a web services, then it's good. It's the icing on the cake kind of thing. But ideally, that doesn't bar you from entering into the OTM. Because from a functional standpoint, we will be discussing about the functionality as well as the business usage of that in my training. So you don't need to really worry about that area. So it's only on the technical competency, because again, as a business analyst or a functional consultant, nowadays it is becoming a norm that you know the SQL, so that you can query the tables, run certain queries, get some output, cross-verify with the data what you're having. It's becoming a norm nowadays for the business analyst. Nothing to do with OTM, but in general as a business analyst, that's the norm. And why do we need an XML? OTM has always been heavily dependent on integrating the product with other solutions, and the exchange of the data has always been a CSV, comma separated value, or an XML. So because of this heavy dependency on other products, when we exchange that data, people always expect us to understand that particular scenario. How do we create an XML tag? What is the structure we need to do? So it is an expectation, but again, it doesn't bind you to do that one. SQL is the only thing which will bind you to the product, but XML and all, either, as I said, if you are looking for a technical role by other person, then you can just leave it to him. You can just focus on what's available on the system. So that is something which we need to do as a prerequisites for that one. From a business knowledge, as I said, you don't need to worry on that. The topics, whatever I'm going to take, I will be covering on the business knowledge of that one. So you can just focus on that area in this training itself. And a couple of common questions which people ask when we start the training is related to material, related to the access, and related to how they can go through this particular product. So one thing is that in terms of the material is concerned, as Rudra IT would have already updated you, we have our own material. Samples would have been given to you in this particular area. So there will be like two types of material. One would be a pure uh, hands-on material, or I would say a scenario-based kind of thing. So in this scenario-based kind of thing, we take case studies. Now, typically, this particular training will not be like field by field, screen by screen, because if you start looking at that, it takes ages to complete this training. But what we do is we take up a particular scenario. So let's say, for example, if I have to take from Louisville, I would like to transport to San Francisco. Now for this one, how do I do this particular transportation? What setups I do, what operations I perform, what reports I generate. So you take a particular case study against a case study, because again, when you go and hit in front of or sit in front of your customer, he's not going to ask you, oh, what is this screen for? He generally says, this is my case study, can OTM fulfill it or not? This is my case study, can you configure that particular case study or not? And that's where your customer speaks, or that's the voice of your customer. You would never come back and say, okay, can you tell me what's this location used for? I will go and configure. No, he won't configure. He expects us to configure his scenario. So looking at that focus, because end of the day you need to be competent enough to go and implement this product. Looking at that particular scenario, we have always been working towards building a scenario based sessions, so that you understand what type of expectation your customer will have, and against that expectation how you will fare. So this kind of documentation will be provided to you. So one is purely on a scenario based session, which will tell you. The second one is, this is based on screenshots and other things. The second one is exercises. So it's just basically about, okay, I dump with a list of scenarios where you need to figure out how that scenario can be implemented. But again, for that one, there would have been a previous sample scenario given. Against the scenario, you can go ahead and do that one. So those kind of materials will always be available to you, along with an Oracle provided material. So Oracle has also published. Unfortunately, Oracle has not updated it from quite some time. So, but that particular document will be shared with you. You can use that, because so that you will also understand what type of Oracle material has been published versus how you can do the scenario based thing from our point of view. So both the things will be provided for you in terms of material is concerned. And also there are some additional accessories which will also be provided, like sample resumes in case if somebody is looking for a job change. But if somebody is learning OTM only for your next project which you are coming up, then that is not required. But that's also be shared with you so that you can use it in building your curriculum vitae. But primarily that is used in case if you are looking for a job change. And there are also going to be a Q&A questions kind of thing. This acts as two things. One, it acts as a deep dive validations for what you are learning. So that means tomorrow, if you want to know how deep is the rating or contracting, How deep is your order management? So those kind of questions have been laid down in an Q&A, I would say. This will provoke you to do more hands-on onto the product so that you are more competent when you go and sit in front of your customer or sitting for an interview kind of thing. So those kind of things are also being taken care. Please bear in your mind, those questions do not have answers because the idea is to provoke you to do lots of hands-on onto the product. But the base for that can be this kind of material which we are already providing. Okay. Any questions before we move on? Avinash or Murthy?
Yeah, you can continue.
All right. Okay. So that's on the way we would, what's the offerings from us? So let me now take up the demo for which we are all assembled today. So the way I always go through my training is, as I said, uh, typically we look at a business case study, and for that business case study, we look at the business need and compare it. So what I would do is for this demo, I'll break it into two pieces. Piece one is explaining the business, basically, how do I do that? What's the aid I do that? Two, how do I hit my application and what do I do in that my application kind of thing. So both the things I'll be explaining. But as I said, this is more of a demo, so we will not be doing a deep dive discussion on that. But it's more to understand and feel free to understand how I would be training this product is concerned. Now let me start with a very simple case study. Again, this is a hypothetical case study to introduce you to the terminology, but as we progress, we will also be looking at certain business case studies. That means if the real world scenarios, what people generally call. So I would more like to use the word called a business case study because that's what business would use end of the day. But so let's start with the first scenario. So let's assume that you have a customer and this customer would like to transport a cargo from place A to place B. Now, how do we start with it? So, for example, I have Dabur, which is a manufacturing unit. This manufacturing unit would like to transport its cargo. Let's take Dabur Chyawanprash is what I would like to transport from Delhi manufacturing unit to Walmart, where we are assuming that Walmart is a departmental store out there in USA catering to the Indian community for some of the products which is being sold there. So Dabur as a manufacturing company would like to transport its cargo, specifically Dabur Chyawanprash or Dabur Honey, out there for USA, specifically to Walmart distribution center. So in this particular scenario, the person or the organization from where we initiate the cargo will be called as shipper. So shipper is a person from where we initiate the cargo. Because end of the day, OTM or ATM is all about transporting the cargo from place A to place B. So if you want to transport a cargo from place A to place B, we always need a shipper first. Means a person or an organization from where we initiate this transportation. Walmart is the recipient or the receiver of this particular cargo. So we call Walmart as consignee. So for any given transportation, you need a shipper, you need a consignee. Shipper is from where we pick up the cargo or we initiate the transportation. Consignee is the person to whom we deliver the cargo or where the transportation ends. So those are the two primary parties you need for any transportation requirement. One is shipper, one is consignee. And also, please understand that if at all you are dealing with an Asian market in terms of transportation, in Asian markets, shippers are also called as consigners. This is a fading away term. That means nowadays not many people are using it, but still some Asian countries do use the word called consigner. So consigner is one from whom we start the cargo, and consignee is to whom we deliver the cargo. But again, as I said, shipper is more of a colloquial term which is used out there in most of these organizations. Then, then more obviously, there used to be a situation where manufacturing companies used to take the responsibility of transportation, but nowadays we get third-party logistics. Means the organizations who don't own the cargo, but who act as a middleman while moving the cargo from place A to place B. In this case, we are assuming that FedEx, okay, is a freight forwarding company. What is a freight forwarding company? An organization which has been entrusted with the cargo movement from start to end. That means he will arrange the pickup, he will arrange the delivery, he will ensure if there are any insurance need to be taken, he will take care of that one. If any customs clearance has to be taken care, he will be taking care of that one. Also, please understand, he might do all those tasks, that is pickup, delivery, insurance management, customs management, identifying the right mode of transportation. In case if he doesn't have his own fleet, that is his own trucks or his own airliners, he will look out for another organization who can physically move the cargo on behalf of him. So this particular freight forwarder might do all those tasks or might do some of the tasks. That means what? For example, customs clearance. A freight forwarder may take the responsibility of customs clearance or might give it to somebody else who is willing to do the freight forwarding customs clearance is concerned. So like that. But the primary objective of him is to take care of pickup, take care of delivery, take care of all that insurance and other things. That is his job. He may do it or he might deliver this to somebody else who will be doing on behalf of him. So that is the job of a freight forwarder. And we also call this kind of companies as a third party logistics because they are not the buyer, they are not the seller, that is neither they are the shipper, they are not the consignees. So they act as a middleman. So this cargo will be given to this freight forwarder who in turn might use his resources to transport the cargo or he might give it to somebody else. Means what? If he is giving it to somebody else, that means there will be another organization who is completely responsible to physically move the cargo from place A to place B. In this case, we are assuming that there is an Air India flight. Again, Air India is a passenger flight. There are also organizations who have a commercial flights only for cargo transportation. Okay. So like for example, we have Mass Cargo from Malaysian Airlines is concerned, which is specifically for your cargo transportation from place A to place B. So in this example, I'm just taking this example as Air India. So the objective of Air India is to physically move the cargo from place A to place B. In that particular case, these organizations will be called as carriers. So carriers are the companies who physically move the cargo from place A to place B. Does that mean that freight forwarders don't do it? That means freight forwarders may or may not do. That means freight forwarders may use their own fleet, but in case they don't have, they might depend on the carriers. Carriers are the companies who always physically move from place A to place B. Means they may not discuss to Dabur, they may not speak to Walmart. They always speak to freight forwarders in accomplishing that particular scenario. So
So
we can,
question here,
yes.
this is a question from Avinash. So does that mean that FedEx is hiring Air India service for for moving the goods from place A to place B?
That's right. FedEx or the carriers, most of the time, they always partner with freight forwarding companies. So in this particular scenario, it is FedEx who is hiring Air India for loading his cargo and moving it to the destination.
So does that mean that the freight forwarder and carrier are the mandatory things in these entities in the whole cycle?
Correct. For this example, carrier and freight forwarder are mandatory scenarios. But again, as I
Okay.
said, uh, for,
Mm-hmm.
for a scenario where FedEx has got his own flight, then in that particular
Mm-hmm.
case, carrier becomes non-mandatory. So
Okay.
depending on a scenario to scenario, parties become
Mm-hmm.
mandatory. At any given point of time, a freight forwarder, a shipper, a consignee are always mandatory. In case of a freight
Okay.
forwarder does not have his own fleet, then the
Mm-hmm.
carrier becomes mandatory. So in
Mandatory.
a TM
Okay.
solution, as a general,
Mhm.
carriers are always optional because if a freight
Okay.
forwarder doesn't have his fleet, then only we go
Mhm.
to carriers.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. And then the Air India would physically fly from source to destination, that is from Delhi, India, to all the way to the destination, that is at your San Francisco. So at San Francisco, obviously, FedEx might have his own branch, might not have his own branch. Like for example, a lot of cargo which is going from India to US, sometimes we use a local player is concerned. Like for example, there is a company by name Blue Dot. Now, Blue Dot may not have a branch in USA. So, but anybody who walks into Blue Dot, they will never say that, oh, we don't have. What they do, they partner with some other freight forwarding companies, which we will discuss in some other scenario. But in this scenario, we are assuming that FedEx has got a branch at source, that is in Delhi. FedEx also has a branch at the destination, that is in San Francisco. So it's only for our easy to understand. We generally classify origin freight forwarder, that means the freight forwarder whose operations are at the source location, and destination freight forwarder, that means the freight forwarder whose operations are happening at the destination. Now please remember this carefully. The term origin freight forwarder and destination freight forwarder will change according to the order. Means what? If there is an order from Delhi to San Francisco, FedEx Delhi will become origin freight forwarder. Let's assume that tomorrow there is a shipment which is coming from Singapore to Delhi, and that is also happening through FedEx. In that case, for that particular Singapore to Delhi order, the Delhi freight forwarding location will become destination freight forwarder. So the origin freight forwarder and destination freight forwarder are virtual terms, means physically you will not see this terminology in any application. It is only the virtual terminology which is used to classify for a particular order which location is considered as source, which location is considered as destination. So it's more of a virtual terminology rather than physically a particular branch acts only. So it will never happen that a branch will always be for pickup, always be for delivery. A branch will always do pickup and delivery for that particular order. Whether that branch is acting like a ship origin or destination is the virtual term what we use. Okay, so that is more to understand. But as I said, in San Francisco, I will call FedEx as DFF. That doesn't mean that the San Francisco branch is always used for delivery. It can also be used for a pickup, maybe for other scenario. Like from I have a scenario from San Francisco to Quebec, then in that particular case, I will call San Francisco as my origin freight forwarder. So it's more of an understanding or a virtual term to classify for that order where is the start, where is the end. We use this origin and destination. In OTM, we might be using a distant terminology. Like for example, in OTM, I will use Delhi as source location. I will use FedEx San Francisco as destination location. So that time I won't call it as OFF and DFF kind of thing. So as I said, product to product it will change, but the terminology what I'm giving you is a generic business terminology. Okay? And then finally, FedEx at San Francisco will go ahead and complete the delivery. So that is how this particular business runs in general. Any questions? Anybody?
In this scenario, can the destination carrier could be different actually?
Oh yes.
Instead of FedEx, somebody has Blue Dart or something they would be receiving, right,
Yes.
from the Walmart standpoint, right?
Yes, for example, if you see my next scenario where I said
Mm-hmm.
DHL is picking up the cargo, but the delivery is being done by somebody else here to the Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is a
Okay.
possibility which will be there, but as I said,
Right.
because this is a demo, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going into the other variations.
Okay.
But yes, we do have
Okay.
such situations.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. Murthy or Sriram, any questions from your side? You're on mute.
No, 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 man. I'm fine.
All right. Okay, so this is the first piece of the demo. As I said, this is basically trying to understand the business segment.
One question,
Yes, please.
one question I had, is just I got in mind. So for this shipment, right? In general, who is implementing the TMS? Is the Dabur implement TMS or the FedEx?
Okay, that's $1 million question. I would hold this question for the future because this OTM can be implemented at various things. Means if OTM is implemented by Dabur, how does the scenario work? If the OTM is implemented by FedEx, how does the system work? If the ODM is implemented by the carrier, like our Air India or somebody, how does the system work? So yes, we do have a scenario where I will discuss that in detail. Depending on who is implementing OTM, how OTM behaves is also something which I'll explain as we progress, like this. So yes, there is a session on that one, because depending on who implements OTM, the behavior of the solution changes. So that is why that is a session which we will definitely have with that one. But you're right, yes, OTM can be implemented by all three of them, and each one perceives OTM in a different solution, as a different solution. Okay. All right. So as I said, this is the first piece of our demo. Basically, we are trying to understand how how the business perceives and who are the parties involved in this transportation business. Well, let's take the second piece of the demo, that is primarily looking at um, this particular scenario. That's about if I am logging in into OTM, what's my feature. So what I will do is I will pick up a small topic called location, and this demo will cover about how the locations are created in OTM. But again, as I said, I will not be doing a deep dive demo kind of thing. It's basically at a very high level to understand the scenario. So I'm just logging into the application.
That OTM 6.3 application?
That's right. This is OTM 634. Out there in the market, we have 637, but I always keep -2 or -3 versions. They're minor versions from a training content is concerned. There won't be any difference. But this is a 634 version, uh, so which
Okay.
has got all the latest features of OTM, I would say.
Okay.
So I'm just going through the OTM location manager and trying to create a location. As I said, this is more to make you feel comfortable about how I explain the product. Till now we were discussing about how the business runs. Now this is about how the product is all about. So as an OTM product, if you actually see, uh, this is more of the screens what you could get. Let me just adjust my marker. Awesome. So typically, what I always do is I always pick up important fields in the product. Like for example, there are so many fields out there, a lot of things. What what is important for us, what is not important for us. So what I generally do is, based on my previous experience, based on my implementations, there are some fields which really make or break the way OTM does. So for now, I'm just picking up three fields on how we would explain, and then later when we are in the actual training, we can go through that, how the other fields impact the application. To start with, what is a location? A location is basically used as a geographical point in the transportation. When I say geographical point, this can be used for pickup. This can be used for delivery. This can be used as airport. This can be used as a seaport. This can also be used as a non-transportation location. Means what? I can use a location description here to which I can send invoices or bills. Means what? I might be having a customer who is having a location in San Jose in San Francisco, but all his bills have to be sent to their Memphis headquarters. So the Memphis location can be considered as an administrative location, that means used for billing purpose. But my pickup can be from San Jose, my pickup can be from Belmont, my pickup can be from New York. So like that. So you can create locations in OTM. So as a business, a location is used for transportation, direct or indirect usage. Direct means it can be used for pickup, delivery, airport, seaport, storage, that is including warehousing while you are in transit, as well as non-transportation, which is basically about if I am configuring it for my billing purpose, my invoicing purpose, then that can also be used in location. So as a business usage, locations are geographical points used for directly or indirect transportation requirement. Then so basically ID and ID can be automatically generated. Again, as part of our regular training, we will see a topic called BNG, business number generation. Means if I want my OTM to automatically generate a number, how do I do that? Now in this case, definitely I can have a particular location being created here. So for example, if I'm creating US hyphen California hyphen SFO, This is my nomenclature I would like to use it, but depending on companies, depending on their business strategies, they might have their own options. Like some companies use country code and the postal code as a combination in deriving this information. Okay, just a minute. Just give me a minute. Sorry, there was some disturbance from my side, so I thought I'll just close my door. All right. So as I was mentioning, the business usage of the location. Now let's see how that particular configurations can be done in the system. So to start with corporation, what is a corporation? Corporation basically defines the organization to which this location belongs to. See, for example, if I'm implementing OTM for Walmart, then my Walmart location can be various places. At the same time, I might also have my uh, service providers, or I might also have my vendors who are doing. So I might be picking up cargo from my vendors. So a location, whether it is my vendor location or whether it is my freight forwarder location, whether it is my own location, how do I know that? So that classification can be done by assigning corporation. So corporation primarily defines the organization to which this location belongs. No. Also, please note it, it is not mandatory. Now, how do I know whether it is a mandatory or not? Anything which is marked with red note is called as mandatory. But also, please bear in your mind, there will be one specific session from my side where I will go through the user interface. Means what are these icons available? What is this red? What is this blue? All that I will speak. But because this is a demo, I'm not covering that particular feature now. So now, so why this is not mandatory? Because there can be some common location shared by multiple organizations, like your airport. So airport, there are a lot of companies who do pickup and delivery to a particular airport. So I don't have a corporation. Seaport, common location. So wherever there are common locations who do not belong to specific companies or specific organizations, we call them as yours. We make this corporation as empty. That is something which we need to consider. Two, use as a template. What do I mean by a template? So template primarily means if you want to use this particular location to create other locations, then you mark it as template. Let me give a very classic example which happens in India. In India, it's a very common process to have SEZs, that is special economic zones. So if you go to any state nowadays, they are giving special economic zones for industries. Like for example, there is an SC. If you come back into the Andhra Pradesh or Telangana is concerned, so Telangana has got special economic zones for manufacturing industries, special economic zones for your IT industry, special economic zones for your apparel industry. Means what? A thousand of acres of place will have multiple organizations. Now, in this particular case, the many details will remain same, like the country code, the geographical information will remain same, like your postal code, your province code, your state code, your longitude, your latitude. Means 80% of the information might remain same, except maybe the building ID, maybe the tower ID, maybe the floor ID, like that. Certain very basic data might change, but at an overall, the application will be, sorry, the data will remain same. In that particular case, what we do is we create a template. Means the country, postal code, province code, the usage, all that we will create as a common data and we'll mark it as a template. So let's say, for example, I'm now creating customers for building one. So I'll just copy this particular location and then change that building details and complete my setup. Okay, so that is the usage of template. So template is used to create a particular dummy location with all the valid data, but this location will not be used for operations. Means we cannot create an order using this location. Then what is the use of it? Using this location, I will create other locations which will be used for order. Like for example, in Telangana, we have this concept called high-tech city. So I'll simply say all the details of high-tech city, but tomorrow I will simply create one building called Cyber Towers, another building called Cyber Pearl, another building called Cyber Gateway. So like that, I will create each building. But for all these three buildings, the country is same, the province is same, the postal code is same, and also the roles what they play used for pickup, delivery, and these locations are near to the airports, so you can also have airport. So all those details will be just copied from the template. That is the main use of template. Also, please bear in your mind, if you mark it as a template, this will not be available in your operations. That's the only thing. Obviously, we don't want it also, because the objective of this location is to create other locations rather than creating an order out of this particular location. And then the last piece, that is your known shipper. An interesting feature, especially when you are doing a multi-country transportation. So let's take a very common example. What we have is a lot of bananas or plantains move from Mexico into USA. Okay, so let's assume that Walmart is importing, or Coles, which is a very good agriculture organization in US, is bringing the cargo from Mexico into USA. So obviously anything coming from Mexico to USA, because of the political, geopolitical requirements, they need to go through certain customs clearance is concerned. And while doing this customs clearance is concerned, that the time taken for the customs clearance may vary any time between 1 day to 4 days, depending on the volume we are dealing with. In that particular case, what happens? The shelf life for that particular bananas which are coming from Mexico will automatically go down. So for example, if I have harvested them today, and if I feel that I have a 1 week shelf life for these bananas to be consumed, then if 4 days I am spending in my customs clearance, then only 2 days will be there, and within 2 days I might be able to sell, I may not be able to sell. So it's a kind of risky business. So these kind of companies, what they do is they go and get themselves certified as known shippers with the Homeland Department or with the Customs is concerned. In that case, what happens is technically they will submit all the paperwork against the cargo which is being transported, but the Homeland Department will only do the random check of the cargo. So the amount of days where they stand in the customs clearance will drastically come down to maybe a day or maximum a 2 days kind of thing. So that means what? Their shelf life will be increased. Now, not only for these kind of products, any products where if the organization feels that they are genuine business owners and they follow all the rules and regulations as laid down by the government. It could, again, I'm giving an example of US, but this can apply to any country in Europe, any country in Asia also. Okay, but I'm just giving a common example what happens. So in this case, these companies, whoever are certifying themselves as known shippers, they have been going through every rigorous validation has been laid down by the customs organizations is concerned, so that when they enter into the country, they are having a minimal verification onto the cargo. Typically, perishable items are always being used for this particular known shipper qualifying is concerned, because they want to maximize the shelf life and minimize the transit time. So for that particular case, a known shipper tag will be there. Now, why do we mark it at a location? Because if you mark it at a location, you will be able to know whether this location can handle those kind of customers, or if this is a customer location, that means any cargo originating from this location gets certified for known shipper, so that when we are dealing with the customs clearance, we know what exactly the documentation as well as the process to be followed. For that only we opt this known shipper tag. Okay. Any questions? Anybody? Avinash or Murthy?
Yeah, This is Avinash. Hey, so this OTM also, it's an Oracle product, right? So this user interface.
Mhm.
So for example, this location ID is required field. So why it is not marked as star actually here? I mean, is that a reason why they did not mention? Because normally certain fields are, if they are mandatory, they are marked as star, right?
That's right.
Something like that. So
The
why
reason,
this location ID?
yeah, a simple reason behind that is if I don't give a location ID here, OTM automatically populates based on the existing BNG. Because when you install OTM, there is a seeded data which comes up. And one of the seeded
Mhm.
data is automatic location ID generation. If you don't give a location ID, OTM will automatically populate based on whatever is the existing business number configuration. So that is why it is being marked as non-mandatory.
Okay, and even same with the corporation ID also.
No,
Same. I mean,
corporation ID will not be automatically generated because only
okay.
IDs in OTM
Mhm.
are mandatory fields. The rest all the fields, wherever there is a star mark not available, that simply means it is not
Okay.
mandatory. But also,
And that, yeah, and
yeah,
the FVIN and all that is that similar like the lookups and all that, LOVs and all that?
yes, they are all similar to the application.
LOVs, right? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're all the standard LOAs.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other questions? Murthy, how about you?
No questions.
All right. Okay, so that's the end of our demo kind of thing. As I said, the objective here is not to do an OTM application training kind of thing, but more to get yourself familiarized with how we would do the training is concerned, I would say. Any other things apart from whatever I have trained? Anything which comes to your mind in terms of asking questions? You can ask me.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I was looking at their website for Rudra IT Solutions,
Uh-huh.
and there, let me read it actually. So here. So I'm looking at the course curriculum actually. So it covers the scenario for build, execute, settle a shipment.
Uh-huh.
That's one. A second scenario is configure OTM, build and tender and settle a multi-stop shipment.
Uh-huh.
And the third scenario is creating and tendering a multi-leg shipment.
Right.
And then there is a scenario for provision European VATs. And then scenario for multi-leg shipment using deconsolidation and pool and appointment.
Right.
And then pre-scheduled milk run or something. I don't know what is that.
Uh-huh. Yep.
So is it all included in your that spreadsheet actually?
There are only one piece which will not be there. That is basically how do we handle the milk runs? Because nowadays the whole of the milk runs are gone into the fleet management as a separate module. So that's the only piece which
Oh.
will not be there. But if you see this
Mm-hmm.
build plan and all, so technically
Mm-hmm.
this is the area where you will be having that
Okay.
about multi-stop, multi-leg, and in the invoices about when we are creating invoices, how do we handle the taxes and all other stuff is part of this particular
Mm-hmm.
scenario. Yeah, it is there. In fact, this particular Excel sheet is having some more than what that has been published. So that needs to go through a kind of update in terms of the content. So like for example, in that you will not find something called menu editors, user roles, screen customization, manager layouts. So those things are not there. So that would get updated. So those things are also part of this particular segment what we deal.
Uh, can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
So, uh, see, from a location to location, the transport is a shipment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a shipment basically is a transformed form of uh, an order,
Right.
correct? Okay. So, I mean, I have a couple of scenarios. I mean, to understand the depth, maybe the initial depth of TMS. So, let's say I have an order to ship from a location to location in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have an order to ship from a location to location in a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have same order from same location to location to be shipped in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and uh, I have an order that has you know uh, kind of a parcel. Okay, and I have an order that is a kind of LGL. I just want to know what is the best, what is the algorithm, how the OTM helps us to tackle the scenarios.
Basically, one straightforward answer to that is, if at all, if your orders are scattered on a timeline basis, in OTM we have
Mm-hmm.
what we call scheduled appointments. So that means that an order which has to go through today. So, for example, I'm just picking up an order just to give a feel of that one. So when you actually do this particular order, we have something called pickup timelines. So, for example, if you say that I want it to be picked up today, or I want to be picked up or moved on in the next week, or I want to pick it up in next month, kind of thing. So we have something called schedulers. So schedulers are basically time dates which you can impose when an OTM should consider when to pick up, when to deliver, kind of thing. So those kind of things we call it as schedulers. We generally call it as scheduled for either pickup or delivery. Those kind of things can be considered that. So that is something
No,
which is
let's say, I mean, tomorrow, the, the positive side, the mode is A. Okay.
your voice is a bit low, Murthy. Can it be a bit louder, please?
For tomorrow, say the mode is air.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And the for 3 days, I can go on ground.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And say a month, I can go on ground to an available freight carrier or the supplier who transports goods at the least cost. But uh, for the 4 days transit time, I should select a optimal freight carrier. But like 7 days or 10 days, where the time uh, arrival time is more, I should take a least carrier.
Yes.
So
That
I
is also
mean,
possible. That's also possible
yeah.
because, for example, when OTM does planning, right? OTM considers the deliverable timeline, the cost, the mode which is cheaper. So when OTM does this planning, what OTM does is OTM does lots of permutation and combination. Like if I directly send it through air, what is my situation? What is my cost? And through air, does it meet the timelines as expected by the customer? Does it meet the cost as expected by the customer? Or it can also happen that if I send through ground, again, does it meet my service provider? And do I have an equipment? Now, when I said does it meet, it also goes and verify, do I have a truck with a capacity of what the order is having? Or should I have two trucks or three trucks, kind of thing? Same thing with air. And also while doing it, it also looks at the commodity compatibility. Means what? Hazardous items have been asked not to fly. So that time what will happen? If an item is given for a 3 days delivery, but my trucks are saying that I can take only 4 days for it. Now OTM will not still go and opt air because air has been tabooed for your hazardous material or whatever material has been given in that particular thing. So all those kind of permutations OTM do consider while building a shipment. That includes equipment capacity, best route which has to be taken, best service provider and his previous contract, whatever I am having, what is the various modes I can opt in doing that one. So depending on how we configure the system, OTM will look all these permutations. That includes mode, that includes service timeline, that includes the type of equipment I should use. Like for example, some items are frozen items. I need only refrigerated based equipment, that is my container. OTM will consider that. So those kind of permutation. Sometimes I say that no, if you are transporting to USA, please ensure that your port of entry is in New York. After that, you need to go to any other location in USA. Means anything which is coming from UK or any European countries. So then I can also impose it on the system that while you are planning a shipment, ensure that your port of entry is so and so. Then you go to the destination. And while planning, OTM will also honor that particular rule in completing the shipment planning is concerned. So yes, planning engine is very robust in OTM. It considers various permutations while building the shipment. As I said, it could be a combination of route, a combination of mode, combination of rate service, combination of various service providers offering on the same lane. And after evaluating all this, whichever fulfills my timelines, whichever fulfills my cost, the cheapest will be considered. Now also there is an exception to that. For example, I might be getting a FedEx and I might be getting a local player also. But because FedEx is a premium service provider, I don't mind paying an extra money or extra buck, but I will prefer to go FedEx rather than a local player. So you can also ask OTM in these situations, go ahead and build with FedEx rather than local player, even though FedEx is a costlier as compared to other things. So that kind of also expectation you can set with OTM while planning your shipment.
One question here.
Yep.
It just evolved from the topic.
Again, your voice is going low.
Yeah, one question here. It just evolved from the topic we had. I understand now the planning has various the planning algorithm looks on various things to give. It may not be always least cost, and it may not be always the least time of travel. It is a combination of multiple things how we tell the system. Now you said like truck, right? Let's say I have a normal shipment. In the we can say like uh, quantity in the ship, so ship unit or the delivery line, okay, which is normal. It doesn't have any hazard, temperature control or nothing. Okay, I'm Dabur. Okay, I'm shipping it. Now I'm shipping it. I just need to select a freight carrier or some service provider who can send my shipment to my ultimate location.
Mhm.
Here, why should I care about truck? That is something he has to bring, right?
Oh, okay. No, yes, definitely we don't care what about the equipment. Now, again, I'm saying that is something which either you want to consider while planning or not in OTM. Also, you can decide. Now, for example, I don't care about what type of equipment which my service provider brings. I'm only worried about whether he can deliver or not in my given timelines for my given cargo. So in that particular case, yes, you can make OTM ignore the equipment also while building your shipment, where you are only telling to the system that this is my cargo, go ahead and this is my service provider, and you take the responsibility of bringing what type of truck and how. So yes, that can also be part of the planning engine logic where you can tell whether you want to ignore the equipment or you want to consider the equipment.
One question I have, I think I am asking a lot of questions. So let's say I have I have an order that has to be shipped to a customer 2 days later. So this order has been planned, and we identified one service provider. So now I have this.
Voice is very low, right,
Yeah,
Rudra?
yeah, it's going down again.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
It's better
Yeah.
now, yeah.
So let's say I have a shipment to be transported to a customer on say on 27th of this month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have an order, I plan and I find DHL as a service provider.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who is capable of shipping, no matter what logic that business constraints have been done.
Right.
Okay, now the transit time is 2 days. So the customer should come, I mean the service provider should come and pick it from my warehouse dock door on 25th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can we configure system in such a way that like, hey, give me the DHL as service provider, okay, and book an appointment uh, for dock door X on so and so time.
Yes, we can do that as part of scheduling. As I said, doc scheduling, there are options of exactly what date, what time he needs to come to what doc also. So that can also be configured once you shortlist a service provider.
Okay. Okay. I mean, general here the typical scenario is like, you need to synchronize uh, you need to find the best fit carrier at the same time you need to synchronize and best fit the physical dock door capacity with the incoming truck time of the service provider. So, I mean, warehouse is happy and as well as the transportation need is covered.
Correct. So
So
that is a standard feature in OTM. Yes, that's available in OTM as a standard feature. And not only that, OTM can also do a notification also. Means what? For example, I'm supposed to get on XYZ date, and that particular person has not turned up. I can also notify to a set of people why it has not come. Or even if he comes in time and picks up and goes, then also I can notify stating that yes, it was done in time kind of thing. So that kind of event management with the notifications and scheduling can also be done in OTM.
okay. So let's say I have I mean, generally, I was going through and I have interview and I'm working on this CMS.
You are again fading off.
Yeah. So I have a little knowledge and I'm working on this CMS piece. So this OTM has, I mean, this is an awesome tool to integrate that I understand. And it's basically a TMS tool. So you have always an integrations with OM, your order management, and you know, for various transportation related data like distance, rates, and all, you integrate with so many other tools. And the planning engine is the heart of the TMS. Now, let's say I have an order. So, I mean, can I can I synchronize my OM data with the same number references in TMS? Let's say my order number is ABC
Mhm.
1234 in my order management system. Now a release has been created it was planned as a shipment. Now I want to have some reference of 12345, the order number in TMS. Can I do that?
Yes, we definitely can do that one. Like for example, in order release of an OTM, we have something called reference numbers. We directly have that word called reference number. What is a reference number? See, because it is very common that OTM as an TM solution needs to be integrated with various product lines. That include order management, or sometimes I need to send an advance shipment notification to somebody else. I have something else for that one also. So if I have an order number as generated in my order management system, can I use that ID in OTM to track a particular shipment or to track a particular order in OTM? Yes, we can definitely do that one. Like for example, I'm just selecting one here uh, called EBS. So here we have all this as a reference number. So in case if you think that there is a particular third party product to which I would like to configure this one, yes, you can definitely do that one. You simply have to select that particular order number and assign it here. And not manually, again, I'm repeating, not necessary that you have to do it manually. While integrating itself, that ID can be automatically mapped to this particular reference number to the order, and that can be displayed in the system. So that is also possible.
I mean, you might be knowing this concept of third party. Let's say I'm a business, I'm a corporation. So okay, I have a rate with FedEx say 20 rupees, $20.
Mhm.
Okay. Now my customer to whom I'm shipping has a better rate than me.
Mhm.
Okay. Now
I'm
like
not
that.
able to hear you, Moti.
See, I have to send a shipment to the customer.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Uh, so this customer has a preferred service provider because he's a better rate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he has better rates for different locations.
Yeah.
Okay. So he wants us to, he says like, if I'm shipping to Chicago, okay, he says go with FedEx.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I'm shipping to Tampa or something, he will say go with DHL. I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
and if I'm shipping to Durham, he might say go with Conway something.
Yep.
Okay, these details I will capture in my order management system
Mm-hmm.
because he has better rates. Because my orders also getting integrated from some place.
Right.
So I will somehow have to integrate this and bring to TMS, and TMS should see the location and the constraint I am sending to TMS and plan accordingly. Can you do that?
Oh yes, that's again a standard feature of OTM. So if you
Okay.
actually see into the order release, there is something called constraints tab. So in the constraints tab, I can specify who is my preferred service provider or who are the preferred service providers. It can be one or it can be group. What are the preferred rates I need to go? What is the preferred route I need to follow? What is the preferred transport mode I can pick it up? So all that can be done. Now, not only at one level, means what? Let's take for example, I want to transport from Hyderabad to New York via Dubai as my transit. Now, my constraints not necessarily be in one leg. It can be two different legs. Means what? From Hyderabad to Dubai, I might be going with anybody who is available to me. But from Dubai to New York, I would like to apply some rules. So when you are getting the order constraints not necessarily in generic to everything. Means what? For example, American Airlines can be my best operator when it comes to within USA domestic. But I have a cargo from London to New York to Memphis has to go. So my American Airlines have to be my preferred carrier when it comes to New York to Memphis. But from London to New York, I can have anybody available is there. So in that case, a constraint not necessarily be a blanket constraint from London to Memphis. It can be a constraint on a specific lane or a specific leg also. So that kind of feature can also be provided. And that's again out of box feature in OTM, what I would say.
Okay, I got it. I got it.
And also when you said about preferred rates and other things, like for example, this is a small rate inquiry. Means like if I want to transport from place A to place B, who are the various service providers available to me? Out of these service providers, who is my preferred service providers in this particular lane? If you see here, $120 is the actual cost. But still, OTM considers to be a preferred service provider out of 80. 80 happens to be the cheapest. But still, when you build a shipment, OTM might end up in using UPS as one of his service provider. Because even though he's costlier, but he is my preferred for that particular lane.
Got it. Got it.
So
Yeah,
is that preferred vendor, is it part of a kind of a setup actually that he's marked as a preferred vendor?
Correct. So
The
for a
UPS?
particular lane or for a particular geographical locations, you can identify who is your preferred service provider. It could be for a particular lane or again, it could be for a set of customers. I might be opting for a preferred service provider.
Hey, just quick question. This in Cisco, they are using OTM heavily,
Right.
where we are basically doing integration from order management to OTM for the cell shipments.
Yes.
And they implemented the PO inbound shipment, like from PCBA to DF and all that, for the buy shipment. So
I'm not
buy
sure.
shipment is mainly for purchase orders, right? And the sell shipment is mainly for the sales orders, right?
No, no.
Is that true?
No, I'm not taking your customer names because we are recording this as a demo. But let me put it like this: buy shipment and sell shipment are two different terminologies. It is not related to purchase order and sales order. What means what? See, what is a buy shipment? Buy shipment from an OTM perspective is that if you are buying the transportation services, your organization basically is a manufacturing unit. So as a manufacturing unit, you are buying the transportation services. It doesn't mean that you are buying for your procurement, you are going to use buy shipment. For your sales, you are using a sell shipment. I cannot hear. Uh, can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me now? Actually, my Murthy, how about you? Can you hear me?
hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Seems like issue with Avinash.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
I think there is some problem with Avinash.
Yes. So he wants to connect and disconnect. Yeah.